We're back again, Scotty. Good to see you again, mate. Are we calling these minis? Is that what we're going with?
We can call it the minis. I like it.
If we're allowed, we'll go with it. We always love to chat about the fandom and our passion for the game. The connection in football is something which brings people together like nothing else. We bonded immediately over the passion and love for football, and something which is. I think it's a really underrated aspect of the sport, because the connection and what it can do to a fan is, I don't know if there's too many other things like it on the planet.
It's unique. It can bring people together. Like, there's just so many different leagues, so many different ways to talk about it. It's like being able to speak 6 different languages.
Yeah.
It's insane. But
It is.
I think we were just chatting the other day, probably haven't seen each other for a year, and I think we just couldn't stop talking. So
that's how it is. It's they often say in Europe, football is just another religion. And it really is. It really, really is. And the fact of people identify with their football club. Yep. People's whole life is built on their football club. People's identity, people's habits are built on that. Yep. And it's, I think it's, the standard, you go to the bar and you hear people chatting about the game. Like, again, where I live in Milan, literally every single restaurant at lunchtime, every cafe, every bar, that's all that's being discussed around the clock, during season, off season, no matter what. There are games every 2 hours these days, given how many tournaments there are. But it's just, again, so unique, so powerful. And I love watching on from there, and I love seeing that start to build here in Australia. I love seeing it. And you've told me a lot, like covering and watching a lot of A-League matches. Again, I haven't been to too many, certainly haven't worked at any, but I haven't been to too many in my life. But I even feel there's a stronger connection now, just given how long the A-League's been around for, that now there is those real foundations starting to be built between fans and the clubs.
Absolutely. Like, what a lot of people probably don't know is that clubs and fans, especially like the supporter groups, they somewhat have a bit of a direct communication with them, because it's very important. The fans of the game are so important to a league. For example, I think at one point there was a strike that was had from the supporter group of the Melbourne Victory, which is the team I support, the team that I've been supporting ever since the inception of the A-League. And they have one of the strongest supporter bases, and it really hurt not just the team, but it hurt the league, because the atmosphere dropped off, and it makes for such a spectacle. I think a lot of people like to come to the games, not just to watch the game, they come to watch the fans, and you can see it on the pitch too. It means a lot for the players to have that tight connection with the fans and the supporter groups. You'll see them. It could be a defender that knocked the ball out for saved the goal line clearance, and it's a pump up to the fans, and they're getting all excited, and something about it feels that they're talking directly to you, and it's not that they are above you, but they are the same as you. We're on the same level. For sure.
Absolutely. Do the fans in Australia have some sway in the clubs? Can they call the shots a little?
I think they do, yeah.
Is that understood by the public?
I don't think if you're not really deep enough into it, you probably don't understand. They're like, why are they just leaving
Why
after
is the
10
fan
minutes?
in row Z, seat 4,
I know,
calling the shots?
I know. So it's it's weird. Even in here, probably not a traditional footballing nation, a supporter group can have a lot of shots on the club, and to be honest, it can really make the club change a path of what they're doing, because the fan groups are getting frustrated.
That's it makes me laugh. Sometimes it's not done for the right reasons.
No,
there's a lot of
not at all.
There's a lot of things that go on in these world, but there is that respect that the fan is an integral piece to the club, because without the fans, the clubs would not be what they are. There's some really recent stories that come to mind from Italy, which again to the average sports fan would make zero sense. But the ultras, or ultras in English, ultras, would they say in Italian?
Make sure I say it like that from now.
Yeah, ultras. Just roll the R at the end. But they are essentially the major hardcore fan groups of the respective clubs. And the Milan Ultras, a few years back, they still had their manager who won the championship with them the season prior, Stefano Pioli, his name was. And they were playing against a lower-ranked team, and they played very poorly. They were in the middle of a really, really bad run. I think they were 7 or 8 without a win. Things weren't looking good. Eventually, this manager was moved on at the end of the season. But after this match, the Ultras called the coach, the staff, all the players to their end and had a very lengthy discussion. Now, not that this was 1,000 people yelling at them. No, there was the leader of the Ultras who was having a direct one-to-one with the coach and the captain and the players. And these scenes were shown all over the country, all over Europe, and it is, even there it was remarkable what was going on, but essentially they were very unhappy with the performances and the efforts of their players, and it, did it spark change? There was an improvement in the results, but that is, again, just this unique, I don't want to say power, but unique relationship that the fan groups have with the clubs where, there's a bit more to it than just being a few clapping fans in the audience.
That's it. And I think you said a really important word before, respect. That's what a lot of the fans, especially those in those large supporting groups, they want. They want to be respected, and they want to be heard, that they have a voice in their club, that they spend money every week to go to, that they cheer their heart out every week. And so similar story to that, I think we were talking off air about Lyon, who are going through their own kind of financial difficulties of recent times, but same setup where the leader of the group had their microphone, and in this, it was less of a conversation. It was more him venting his frustration out. And what I love about that is that the players take it on. They don't sit there and walk away or turn their back to them. They sit there, they listen, they take everything in. And in a sense, he was saying the performances you guys are showing, the lack of heart, it's not worthy of wearing the shirt. And so they feel like their voice is heard. And I think it's quite beautiful in that sense, where a supporter group can have that voice and also not be disrespected by the playing group and the club and everyone associated with them by turning their back on them. They listen. Whether it changes anything, probably can't do much.
Exactly.
It's the fact about having a voice and having some sort of impact on the club that you love. Like they're there because they love them. So
No doubt.
Exactly it.
It just enhances that connection, and it does make it very special. But that's where then you can understand the game is changing at a rapid pace. And I'm actually very curious to understand what the average football fan here thinks on the latest, because at the present time, it's been ongoing for years, but there's been a lot of talk about changes to football, significant changes to football. We had the Super League.
Yes.
The proposal came out in a few seasons back. We've had talks about games going to different continents from Europe. The average football fan in Europe that support that club from their city and have done so and have paid their hard-earned money forever and ever, you can understand why they are completely against all of those changes, particularly taking their team to play in Italy in recent seasons. We've had the Supercoppa, the Super Cup tournament, being played in Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
In 2025, there was a Milan-Inter semi-final in the Super Cup played in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. That derby is the biggest rivalry, one of the biggest rivalries in the world, and it was played in Riyadh. Yep. So to the Milan and Inter fan, even though they're big clubs, that makes no sense. They're robbed of an opportunity to watch their team play their biggest rival. Does the average football fan in Australia, and I also put the US because a lot of the games that are being spoken about leaving Europe are to the US, do they understand that? Do they feel... Are they supportive of those changes to enhance the international influence of the game? I mean, we see it in the NFL. They're taking games abroad. But what does the average football fan here think about all of that?
I think if you're outside this country, it's a completely different bias because we're not getting the opportunity to see top flight football a lot in person. So that's why you'll see a preseason friendly match between Newcastle versus, it could be one of the local teams here, Melbourne Victory versus Newcastle, or it was a packed out stadium to watch Liverpool versus Melbourne Victory 6 years ago. We love to have the opportunity. So seeing that from our point of view here it's not as big of a deal because we get to benefit from it. So while that match might have been in Saudi Arabia, we've been able to have some matches of that ilk come down to Australia, and so has the US. They've had teams for that. So I think it's a bit different. It depends on your market, I think.
For sure.
So
it's very interesting because, again, when we talk about connection, these local fans, playing devil's advocate here, because obviously I absolutely understand where the foreign fan comes from, but they have invested so much of their life into that. And it's not that the fan in Australia waking up at 2 a.m. isn't doing the same.
No.
They're doing it in a very different way, but they're doing it absolutely the same. And the love can be the same, if not more.
Yeah.
But you can understand that there are changes ongoing and you can't please everyone. I think that's the bottom line.
That's it. But I think it's also respected if you're a big enough fan, and not necessarily what we would say a casual fan.
Sure.
No doubt, if there was Inter Milan versus AC Milan, that me personally, would want to be there in Italy, win the game. But unfortunately, it's not easy to just keep flying over. So we're grateful of the opportunity is probably what it is.
Sure.
If everything was perfect and we were able to be there,
of course,
we'd absolutely way prefer it there than over here because the atmosphere is different.
Of course. I think with regards to Super Cups, pre-season, no problem. I think when you start to look at the actual league, La Liga have been talking about it with Atleti and Barca playing in Miami that's been ongoing for some time. That sort of thing, well then that disrupts the actual season because then all of a sudden Atletico or Barcelona have to play one home game in Miami, which means it's not fair. You're not going to be playing 19 home games, 19 away games. Yeah. So just maybe
that
changes.
One disturbs me a little bit. I don't want you messing with the regular season.
That's right.
Like
I'm all for the exposure and the marketing where it can be taken place.
Pre-season, Super Cups, pre-season and pre-season Cups.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
You need to invest in around the globe, and that makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
And, a lot of these clubs are global entities now.
Absolutely. And their businesses are only growing, and this is the way to do that, to gain more exposure. But it's a really interesting one, and there'll be plenty more on that coming because it's the way the sport's going. It's only booming. John Aloisi was recently on the pod, had a good chat with him. He's an absolute legend. He spent some time playing England, Spain, Italy. He's the only Aussie ever to have played in those top leagues.
Wow. All three.
Mm-hmm. England, Spain, Italy, Serie A, Premier League and La Liga. So absolute legend what he was able to achieve and to do for club and country. But one thing he mentioned to me, which I didn't know enough about, but again, I can relate to having now seen clubs of this level. In Italy, he played for a club called Cremonese. Now, from Cremona, smallish, very small town. And he explains so well about how important that club being in Serie A in the top flight was, not for the club, but for the town.
Yeah.
Because suddenly, instead of having lower level Serie B, Serie C, so second, third division teams coming to town with no travelling fans and they're very small populations, all of a sudden you have Juventus, Milan, Inter, Roma, Lazio, Napoli, all the big clubs in Italy coming to town with thousands and thousands of fans every second weekend. It changes the economy of that particular town. Yeah. And again, when we bring it back to what we opened with in terms of how important the connection is between the players, the fans, the club, this is what it's all about. It can actually impact quality of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you get to a point that you are such a big fan of your team, your club, and most likely what we don't have down here is necessarily clubs aren't aligned to towns. They're aligned to quite large states. Mm-hmm. So we've kind of been forced to, just because we're from the state of Victoria, we have to go for Melbourne before other expansion teams come above. But what I learned a lot by going through Europe is most of these places, you've got your big cities, but a lot of small little towns. Mm. So I noticed it a lot with the FA Cup, for example. You've got like big clubs come to these third division, small little stadiums that fits 5,000 people. But that's so important to them. Like for them to be able to get like a Manchester United, a Tottenham Hotspur, an Arsenal to come to their ground, fill out, sell tickets, it's the economy.
It's a game changer.
It's an absolute changer. If they got to have that every single week, like for a whole season, they would have enough money to build their club to eventually push up to the next season.
Absolutely.
But they can't because they don't get that exposure.
Yeah. And that's where, again, we talk about the money in football and where things are going. There's so much focus on the big clubs at the moment. people forget there's an entire pyramid, there's an entire world of football there. So forget, with respect, your top 20 clubs in Europe.
Yeah.
They're okay. There's the entire pyramid there.
Yeah.
Italy is a country of 60 million people. Germany is a country of 85 million people. There's a lot of fans out there who support a lot of clubs. And this connection runs so deep. And look, to be fair, most people who support smaller clubs do evidently support a top club. Fine.
Yes.
But the connection to their club, where they're from, is something completely different. That's where Johnny there explained really well in terms of Cremona, Cremonese, and what that meant, and hotels and restaurants and the opportunity to bring in extra money. Win-win for all involved.
It's so important. It's a lot of football clubs are the heart of the town.
Absolutely.
So it's what you go on every Saturday. You go up to the ground and you support your local team. And there's a big emphasis, across the Europe and a lot of football nations, where they really want you to support your local team. Go see your local team.
Did you ever see the Sunderland Netflix documentary?
I did watch the first 2 seasons, I believe.
That was good. I really enjoyed that.
Probably the first of its kind. It was really
I enjoyed
awesome.
that a lot more than the bigger clubs ones that I've seen, because it's exactly what we're talking about. And Sunderland's still it's a big club. Like they've where Cremonese, we're talking about much smaller clubs that are very small populations, but still Sunderland was a really unique look into the real life behind the scenes of these clubs and the power they can have.
Exactly. And I know this is not the Netflix access show, this is Pitchside, but if you want to know exactly about connection between fan and club, watch the Wrexham show, the documentary on Disney. That will show you everything. Wrexham, I went there actually.
Lovely.
I went there, me and my girlfriend just went to Europe, and we were like, we've been watching the show and we had a day spare. We're like, what are we going to do? We're in Liverpool. We need to find some time to fill before we go to London. And we're like, let's go to Wrexham. Let's go check it out. And we went on a Sunday. It was complete, we went to watch an away game in the pub that was in the show. But you can see that if there was no team that was growing there, it's actually quite a dire city. It's just a little town in Wales. There's not much there. It's quite old school. Yeah. But because this team is now coming from non-league football up to, it was coming from League Two, it's coming up now trying to get into the Championship. The vibe of the city is incredible. And you can see
lives. The
economy is changing. They're building new buildings. There's wine bars popping up because more people are coming to Wrexham. It's actually the infrastructure in the city is, I would imagine, if you look at it now to 3 years ago, completely different because football is building the foundation for their city.
Yeah, amazing. And again, that's still maintained at the top clubs. When I say don't worry about the top 20, yes, the small clubs directly linked towns and whatnot, but the other end of the spectrum, a couple of years back, there was the Milan derby, Inter and Milan, in the semi-final of the Champions League. It was one of the most remarkable experiences because there was 6 days, 2 legs, and they had a league game in the middle at the weekend. And what that did to the city of Milan in those 6 days is unlike anything I've ever seen. Unbelievable. They played on a Wednesday, the league on a Saturday, and then played again on a Tuesday. And the whole town, Milan's a big bustling, it's a small city, but I mean big, a lot of people, a lot going on. It was just Champions League fever for 6 days. Unbelievable experience. Inter won 3-0 on aggregate, cruise through to the final. But that was something else. And that's the biggest clubs. Yeah. They're the biggest clubs in the big cities where, all right, the connection's different to Aloisi and Cremona with Cremonese. But that was just, wow, okay, this is all anyone cares about right now.
Yeah. And I can just imagine there'd be, I've been to Milan just recently, and it's a beautiful city. I can imagine just
very beautiful
on the
city.
top, and not for some reason, not a lot of people. People go, but it's not on their top of their list. I was so happy when I went. It was
people underrate my city. Scotty, I'll tell you that because it doesn't have the size. You know what I always say to people? It's very similar to Melbourne. Melbourne, where I was born here, this city is beautiful and better for me than Sydney, but Sydney is easier to visit because there's more to see. There's more sites to tick. Milan is the exact same. Milan is a better lifestyle experience as Melbourne is in Australia. That's my best comparison to say. If you know where to go and you know what to do, you have the best time ever.
And it's good because you've got your main little sites that you've got. You've got the big square there. You've got the arcade. So all the tourists can go there and you get to live a normal life, which is great. But no, it was beautiful. But I can imagine just from being there, how intoxicating that atmosphere
No,
would have been
it's
for that weekend. There would have been things all over the place.
It is unbelievable. And again, that's the big clubs. It is unbelievable just experiencing the love that and the passion that they have inside one of the most iconic stadiums in the world.
Yeah.
Never, ever gets old. It's
beautiful.
you grow up in Australia watching that stadium at 4 a.m. You get to work there every second week. It's
very special.
super cool. It's funny, I was just having a thought again about the Milan Ultras demanding the coach comes to speak to him, to them and explain why the form is so bad and where they're going to improve. Could you imagine that in AFL? Could you imagine the cheer squad calling over the coach in there?
That would have been hilarious. It's just like...
Could you imagine the media reporting on that afterwards?
They would make fun of him, I think. And that's what the beauty part is of the fan. Like, if you really think about it, in terms of any other sport, football fans are the greatest sense check that a club can know if they're doing the right thing or not.
Yeah, for sure.
Coaches leave quicker because of fans, because they are demanding things out of their club.
Fans have very often rejected clubs from signing coaches. There's been media leaks saying this club are going to sign that coach. The fans are at the training centre 9 a.m. the next day with banners saying do not bring him here or his name out before he's even signed. And then the day after the reports are Club X have shifted interest from certain coach and they move on.
It is like because they're so vocal, and I feel like we've talked so much about it, but we're only really just scratching the surface. They you know exactly they accelerate things like
for sure
nothing else, because you walk to that ground, they're going to let you know what they want because this is their weekends. That's right. What they do every weekend. That's right. So exactly. They've got, and it's not just I'm going to support my team, that I'm supporting my city, I'm supporting my town, I'm supporting something I've loved and I spend every single weekend doing. It's time, really.
Absolutely. They demand that respect. Hey, before we wrap up, atmosphere-wise, what's the best you've experienced as a fan?
Well, it's the best for me is I went to a World Cup and to see Australia. I've been thinking about this question, and there was two occasions, but I've decided on one. The first was we versus Denmark in the most recent Qatar World Cup. We won. We got through the round 16. This is a massive achievement for us in Australia, and the party was unbelievable in the city. But the best one I've ever been to, and this exceeds all atmospheres I've ever been to, any sport ever in the world, was when we lost to Argentina in the round of 16 in the 2022 World Cup. I don't think people understand the scale of the amount of Argentinian people that were in every single game, not just all their games. Because what they were doing, they're so passionate. They were buying every single possible ticket for any avenue that Argentina could make. So they had a lot of Argentinians bought tickets to 2 round of 16 games because they didn't know if they're going to be in this group or that group. And I remember going to the second one and seeing a lot of Argentinian people there. But after the game, and I have a video on my phone and I watch it, I'd probably watch it once bi-monthly, I reckon. It's this wall of Argentinian people. The Australians are standing in the middle just watching it because they're in awe, just chanting. And I'm talking half an entire stadium of light blue and white shirts, just singing, chanting, jumping. You could feel the stadium moving. Even the words I'm saying feels like it doesn't give it justice, but it's etched so far into my memory. I don't think I'll ever forget that. You know, I saw Messi score in front of me. I saw, the near misses and the goal that we scored. But everything that's etched in my head right now is that I can just see this wall, and it just felt like an unlimited amount of people on top of me. I've said the word intoxicating before. That's what it was. It is. I'll send it to you. It's the most incredible atmosphere. You were there, but it was insane.
I was there. We might have to clip that up and throw that in because that Argentina chant is magical.
Yeah.
You can feel it as they sing it. It is amazing.
It's something about the melody. It's just.
We're going to have to drop that in this because that will be amazing. No doubt. And Argentina, you witness history. Okay, they went through there, but they went on and won the World Cup. That was amazing to be part of. I was pitchside at both those matches, but the World Cup final for me, when we talk World Cups, witnessing history, I've never seen a game like that where, I've been to other matches with better, let's just say, football atmosphere because of clubs, it can be different to country. But this thing they were witnessing history. I was somehow ended up sitting in the match, so finished my work. And then during the match, the media section was so busy. I knew a couple of Argentinians. I ended up sitting 5 or 6 rows or so from the very front. on the bottom deck in the Argentina main fan section where the penalties were taken. I was right there. Wow. I was in a suit because I was working and I was amongst the most hardcore fans there that I don't know how much money and time they invested into getting there. And the joy when every emotion they enjoyed throughout the match, when Mbappe scored his hat-trick, when Messi's scoring, and when Argentina have won the penalty shootout, every high and low, just riding those waves of emotion with them were incredible to see. And that for me defined the power of the game and what it means to people.
Yeah, that if I could be at one game, it would have been that one. That, to me, I remember watching on TV.
It was incredible.
That might be the best game of football I've ever watched. It was just, in terms of like what was at stake, the Mbappe in that game was just the most insane. Even Martinez keeping was just insane. There's so much going on. I remember watching that and I'd be like, there's a lot of games that I'm happy to not watch replays of, I promise you. But that one, happy to watch over and over again. That's insane.
The best football match in history, no doubt about it. But atmosphere-wise, I want to get some more from you next time. I'm going to get you to San Siro, and you're going to see some derby. You're going to see some tifos, some fire, flares, and more. Because
love that.
There's so many wonderful experiences to be had. But mate, big pleasure as always. We'll do it again.
Can't wait. Thank you so much.